This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the Growth Capital Expo, Caesars Palace in Las Vegas 2016. I have with me Lalit Dhadphale from Health Warehouse. It's a publicly traded company and the symbol is HEWA on the OTCQB. Lalit, welcome to SNNLive.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you. I want to start with an overview on the company, and then we'll ask some more questions.
Sure. Healthwarehouse.com started in 2007, and we're basically an online pharmacy that sells prescription and OTC products to consumers. What makes us a little bit different as a pharmacy is that we focus on the customers that pay out of pocket for their prescriptions, and it's an $80 billion market that's growing rapidly, and we're the first mover in the space.
So I want to ask you a question. What's your background? I'm guessing it's either software or pharmaceuticals.
Definitely not pharmaceuticals. My dad was unhappy about that. But no, I'm from the technology space. I was in the first .com, late 90s in Silicon Valley, companies like CNET and Excite.com. So definitely technology guy.
So how did you think of this idea? What was it that gave you the inspiration? What was the underlying story?
Honestly, it was a flop that got me into it. I invested in a company making generic pharmaceuticals in India. And long story short, they picked the wrong product. And my buddy said, well, you're the internet guy. Go get rid of this stuff on the internet. So I did a little research and realized there were a bunch of illegal Indian and Canadian guys selling it. CVS, Walgreens, the retail pharmacies weren't doing anything online. And so this is a big opportunity. It's a $400 billion market. We buy everything on the internet. We're not buying drugs on the internet. So we started getting the licenses and built it up and went from there.
So who's your typical customer?
When we started, our customers tended to be uninsured people. But the market has changed rapidly because of the reforms with ACA, Affordable Care Act. What we're seeing now is most of our customers are insured, but they have high copays or high deductibles. And we've seen that all along. So consumers are becoming more careful about where they're buying their prescription drugs because they're having to pay more out of pocket for them.
Let's talk about the regulations in your industry. Give me an idea of what you have to stay in compliance with.
Sure. It's a highly regulated industry, and it's getting more regulated by the day. Mainly with online pharmacies, there's been a lot of abuse, a lot of rogue pharmacies that are out there. So the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy developed a program called VIPS, V-I-P-P-S. And there are 45 pharmacies in the U.S. that have VIPS. Out of the 45, we're the only one that sells to consumers online. And the VIPS logo has to appear on the front of the website for it to be a legitimate online pharmacy. And in addition, what VIPS is doing to further separate the legit from the illegit is to create a new domain name called .pharmacy. So for example, you can type in healthwarehouse.pharmacy and you'll know that we're a legitimate licensed U.S. pharmacy.
That's interesting. So how do you grow your business in terms of how do you increase your revenues?
We have had a nice growth spurt actually over the last 6 months, and part of that is that consumers are becoming more aware of our website, and some of that is because we've started to do more IR and more PR, for example, attending shows like this. But we got a very favorable article in Consumer Reports back in December. And thanks to that article, a lot of consumers came out of nowhere. So our revenue spiked almost 46% year over year after that happened. And so we're continuing to go to the local press as well as the national press to get the word out to people. But really it's the consumers that are driving it because their deductibles have gone to $5,000. They walk into a Walgreens and say, how much for this drug? And Walgreens says, oh, it's $500. And they say, I can't afford that. So the next thing they do is they go onto Google. And because we're an online pharmacy, we have VIPS accreditation, we're allowed to advertise on Google. And consumers find us, and they're really excited once they do because they save 50 to 90% on their drugs.
How are you able to do that?
One of the main reasons we can do that is we cut out all of the middlemen. So our focus is to remove wholesalers, distributors, try to work with manufacturers and pass that savings on to the consumers. But another big middleman in prescription drugs is insurance. And we don't accept insurance. So basically we're able to be very transparent with our pricing. We're the only company that actually puts our prices online on the web. If you went to CVS or Walgreens, you would never be able to find the price of the drug. Every location has a different price. So transparency is something that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't like. But us being an e-commerce consumer company, transparency is key, right? That's what drives, that's what drives the sales for us. We're the consumer's friend.
So do you also have name brand and generic?
We have both name brand generic. We sell everything that you can get at a Walgreens or CVS, but our main focus is on generic prescription drugs. And the reason is that the brand name drugs are very expensive, so most people will not pay cash for those. That's where insurance would come into play.
So I have got a good question for you. So, your first mover advantage, but what's the barrier of entry to your competition? But let me add, it doesn't seem logical that a CVS would do an online pharmacy because that would have a terrible impact on their brick and mortar sales. So with that said, please answer my original question.
That is a great observation. So, a CVS or a Walgreens, their business model is brick and mortar, and typically they're using the prescription. They're making you walk into the store and wait 30 minutes so that you can go and shop for your bottle of milk, or you can buy sushi now at a Walgreens, souvenirs, you name it. They're looking to sell you other items while you wait for the prescriptions. And people are busy these days. They don't have time to sit at the pharmacy. We're ordering everything online, right? This is the only category that doesn't exist. If you went to Amazon, you cannot buy prescription drugs online, right? So the status quo with the brick and mortar guys, they're never going to do the online because it cannibalizes their retail sales. And on the other side, you're not really getting a lot of new companies coming in because of all the regulation that exists. It's a 7 to 8 year process to get all 50 state licenses and to get VIPs. So that's what puts us in a very unique position. And healthcare is a little interesting. We have a first mover advantage, but it takes years to get that. It's not like a .com company. So
without giving me information that you're not allowed to, I'd like a little bit of direction regarding 2017 for your company.
We are very excited right now about the future of the company. And I think here at the show we presented our revenues for 14, 15, and 16. And we are expecting to continue the growth that we've been seeing. And I think part of that is the macro trend of what's going on with the high drug prices and people paying out of pocket. But the other part of it is we're in the right place at the right time, and we have something that people really want. And so as we go out and do the PR and the IR and get in front of the consumers, I think there's no question that we're going to be able to accelerate our growth.
All right, so one last question because I got to get this off my mind. Although you are selling product at less than, 90% less than they would in a Walgreens, for instance, what are your margins? I mean, how do you maintain your margins? Or I just think that's a logical question.
Yeah, that's a great point. What's amazing is how much margin there is in prescription drugs. And, our margins are averaging around 63, 64%. And then I'm talking that's blended. So it's prescriptions and also OTC products that we sell. So it tells you what the margins might be at a Walgreens, because we don't have the buying power that a Walgreens would have. But when you eliminate things like insurance, you eliminate some of the middlemen, you can see the type of margins you get. And this is an e-commerce business. So again, we're shipping physical products and getting 64% margin. It's an amazing business, right? And but that's, even with that, we're able to save the consumer so much money, which shows you how much inefficiency there is, in the current prescription drug supply chain.
Lalit, what is your website? I want to give this out to our audience, if you would.
Sure. Our website is www.healthwarehouse.com, and you can also find us at healthwarehouse.pharmacy. And we're located in Florence, Kentucky, which is near Cincinnati, Ohio. And you can also call us on our 800 number or send us a fax from your doctor, and we would love to get your prescriptions.
Interestingly enough, when you're in the e-commerce business, it doesn't matter where you are, does it?
That's correct. That's correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lalit, Dhadphale, Health Warehouse. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is HEWA. It's on the OTCQB. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive, and we're coming to you live from the Growth Capital Expo Caesars Palace in Las Vegas 2016. Thank you, Lalit, for coming on to SNNLive.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure.